Think about this for just a second. Beneath your everyday conscious experience, there is this vastly complex, completely hidden biological machinery running the entire show. We're talking about a silent network of neurochemical pathways, hormonal cascades, and cellular repair systems that literally dictate your mood, your focus, how fast you age, and exactly how deeply you're going to sleep tonight. In today's Explainer, we are going deep into the science of human adaptation to uncover how we can actually access and essentially rewrite the code of this hidden system.
And that brings us to the central question we really need to ask ourselves. What invisible biological forces are actually shaping the quality of your life literally every single day? We so often treat our health as just a series of isolated, separate choices. But today, we're going to look at the body as one deeply interconnected ecosystem. Every single insight we explore today is designed to help you understand yourself on a much deeper level, revealing exactly how one specific, ancient environmental trigger can fundamentally alter the trajectory of your physical and mental health.
Part 1. The Hidden Biological Operating System. To really grasp this, we first have to recognize that our bodies are incredibly adaptive. We evolved in environments of extreme variation, right? Yet modern life provides us with almost constant comfort. It turns out your nervous system is actually waiting, almost starving really, for the right environmental triggers to activate its deepest repair mechanisms. Okay, let's dive into this. The mechanism that unlocks this potential is a concept called hormesis. Basically, hormesis is a biological phenomenon where a small, controlled dose of stress leads to highly beneficial adaptations. Now, today we are specifically looking at deliberate thermal stress, mainly cold water immersion. It's not just some trendy endurance test. It is literally a master switch for human biological adaptation. But what exactly happens when you flip that switch? Let's visualize this for a second. The immediate, dramatic cascade of survival mechanisms triggered the exact moment freezing water hits your skin is wild. At 0 seconds, your skin thermal receptors detect a rapid temperature change. It's an instant alarm bell going straight to the brain. By 30 seconds, your sympathetic nervous system completely hijacks your body. You get that involuntary gasp reflex, and your respiratory rate violently spikes by 600 to 1,000%. By 90 seconds, you hit massive vasoconstriction. Your blood vessels basically clamp down to protect your core organs, which forces your heart to increase its cardiac output by 30 to 40% just to keep the blood moving. It feels like a massive threat, but it's actually the very beginning of a profound biological upgrade. Part 2. Rewiring your brain's chemistry. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth would I intentionally put my cardiovascular system through that? Well, this initial shock doesn't just stress your physical muscles. It crosses the blood-brain barrier and completely rewires your brain's chemical landscape. And the most fascinating changes actually happen right when you think you can't endure another second. So, what's the precise dosage required to get these brain benefits? It's 11 minutes. Stanford neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman recommends this exact cumulative weekly time, spread out across multiple short sessions, of course, as the absolute sweet spot. It's just enough time to trigger a massive sustained release of dopamine and norepinephrine, lifting your mood and vigilance for hours, but it's short enough to ensure you don't fry your nervous system or risk real hypothermia. But look, dopamine is just the surface layer here. If we look deeper, right down at the cellular level, thermal stress activates something truly remarkable, RBM3, a cold shock protein. A lot of what we know about these incredible proteins comes from studying the evolutionary biology of hibernating mammals. When they cool down for the winter, their metabolism drops and the expression of RBM3 absolutely skyrockets. And in humans, we now know for sure that mild cold exposure triggers these exact same proteins in our brain, heart, liver, and skeletal muscle. And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most astonishing biological paradoxes in medical science. During thermal stress, synapses in the hippocampus, which is the memory center of your brain, actually break down. Studies in cooled mice show a loss of about 26%. But here is the magic. During the rewarming phase, there is a rapid regeneration of roughly 93% of those lost synapses. You are literally breaking down neural connections to force your brain to rebuild them stronger and more resilient. It is neuroplasticity happening in real time. But wait, the most profound shift actually doesn't happen when you are awake. Which brings us to part 3, the thermal regulation sleep paradox. Because this rewiring doesn't just affect how you perform during the day. It unlocks a totally counterintuitive mechanism regarding how you rest at night. It really begs the question, doesn't it? How does an intense, sympathetic fight-or-flight shock lead to profound, parasympathetic, deep sleep? Let that hang there for a second.
We always associate the cold plunge with adrenaline, alertness, and getting hyped up. So why is the clinical data showing that it's actually one of the most potent tools we have for improving restorative sleep?
It all comes down to the body's natural craving for contrast. A daytime cold shock creates a massive catecholamine surge. That's your adrenaline and dopamine driving that daytime alertness. But doing this creates a powerful physiological echo, the nighttime rebound. By heavily taxing your sympathetic nervous system during the day, you effectively anchor your circadian rhythm, creating a delayed, profound shift into the parasympathetic or rest and digest state roughly 12 hours later. But there's another piece to the puzzle, and it's highly dependent on your core temperature. To fall asleep, human biology dictates a mandatory drop in your core body temperature of precisely 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit. This natural cooling process is the exact physiological trigger that signals your brain to start synthesizing melatonin. Regular cold exposure essentially trains your body's thermoregulatory system to drop its core temperature way more efficiently when evening rolls around.
And the clinical results of this are striking. A fascinating study at the University of Poitiers in France tracked active adults using whole-body cryostimulation. The result? Participants yielded 7.3 additional minutes of restorative slow-wave sleep in just their first 2 sleep cycles. Why does that matter? Well, slow-wave sleep is basically the holy grail of recovery. It is the exact stage where human growth hormone is released to repair your tissues and where the brain physically clears out metabolic waste through the glymphatic system. It's absolutely crucial.
Part 4. Cardiovascular risks and hidden dangers. However, as we uncover all these incredible benefits, we absolutely must apply rigorous scientific scrutiny. We cannot treat thermal stress as just some harmless, fun wellness trend. We have to separate the evidence-based clinical application from the sensationalized internet hype. The extreme demands placed on the body here carry very real hidden dangers.
Let's be completely objective here. There are absolute medical contraindications for cold water immersion. If you have coronary artery disease, a history of heart attacks, heart failure, uncontrolled hypertension, or if you are pregnant, cold plunging is not for you. Period. A compromised cardiovascular system simply cannot safely handle the intense, sudden demands of this kind of thermal stress. To put into perspective exactly why medical clearance is non-negotiable, just look at the vascular response. Entering freezing water triggers an immediate systolic blood pressure spike of 30 to 50 millimeters of mercury, combined with a heart rate elevation of 60 or more beats per minute. If your vascular system is weakened or obstructed in any way, this sudden surge in pressure and cardiac demand can be highly dangerous.
We also have to be really careful not to exaggerate the psychological evidence. You've probably seen the headlines claiming cold plunges cure clinical depression. Well, here is the impartial truth. While a 2008 hypothesis paper kind of sparks that whole cold shower depression cure trend, rigorous analysis shows the evidence is pretty mixed. Actually, some clinical data indicates that warm showers can work just as well in certain respects for mood elevation. Cold therapy is a genuinely powerful tool for shifting your state, yes, but it is an adjuvant protocol, not a miracle cure for complex mental health conditions.
Part 5. The blueprint for biological adaptation. So for those of you who are medically cleared and want to harness these physiological mechanisms, how do we actually do it? Let's transition from the clinical warming straight into the practical, real-world blueprint for biological adaptation.
So the crucial point here is that metabolic traction requires structured repetition to force adaptation. It's not just about enduring random pain for social media. In the initial adaptation phase, you begin at a mild 60 to 65 degrees for just a minute or two to control your gasp reflex. Then, over months, you systematically lower the temperature and increase the duration through the regulation, mastery, and advanced phases. This gradual approach allows your nervous system to actually adapt, ultimately stabilizing your autonomic responses rather than just constantly shocking your body into a state of panic. But remember, the cold is just one lever. If your goal is truly profound recovery and deep sleep, you must stack your biological cues. Try combining your daytime thermal stress with these foundational protocols. Fast for 3 hours before bed to drop your resting heart rate. Use red light therapy in the evening to protect your melatonin production. And get morning sunlight in your eyes right after waking to lock in that circadian clock. Doing this addresses multiple, interconnected layers of your sleep biology all at the same time. Which brings us to the most profound realization of this entire explainer. Health is not a collection of separate habits. Health is the emergent result of countless interconnected biological processes occurring every moment of every day. Your sleep influences your hormones. Your hormones influence your mood.
Your mood dictates your behavior, which then impacts your nervous system and your inflammation levels. By properly utilizing thermal stress, you aren't just getting cold. You are literally intervening at the base level of this entire interconnected web.
We've uncovered the science today. We've mapped out the hidden mechanisms of neuroplasticity, circadian biology, and cardiovascular adaptation. So now that you understand these hidden biological forces running just beneath the surface, how will you use them to shape the quality of your life? The operating system is sitting right there, and it's yours to upgrade. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into human biology. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.